It's great to have your company again, Gemini. I'm Dadhichi from astrology.com.au. For those of you that are new, welcome, and hopefully I can shed some light on the sun sign here. Of course, astrology is a much deeper subject, and you need to look at the time of birth and the place of birth to get more accurate analysis. But just as a general forecast, we take the sun sign and look at some of the important transits that are occurring through the month of June 2015. So look, I must say, in any horoscope, when the lunations, such as the new moons and the full moons, affect the sun sign, then it has to be a fairly significant month. And this month, we do indeed see the new moon taking place in your sun sign of Gemini around the 17th. Now, I also talked in the introductory video about the retrogression, the retrograde movement of your ruling planet Mercury this month, and how for some signs it's good, for some signs it's not so good. It's not a generalization that we can make. In your case, I'm going to err on the side of a positive spin and say that I think for you generally, these retrogressions of Mercury are pretty good. They actually strengthen your ruling planet, and that's also your fourth ruler, rules the sign of Virgo. Now, as I've said to some of the other signs, that retrogression may be accused for some of the problems you may be having, particularly in your personal life right now or your home life. But let's just take a step back from that, Gemini, because along with Mercury in the sign of Gemini just now in that retrograde motion, we do see the Sun and Mars in a very, very powerful encroaching what we call planetary war. Well, it's not really a war. The war doesn't take place between a luminary such as the Sun and Moon. However, we do see what's called combustion. So that is a bit of a tense situation. And Mars for you is not a particularly friendly planet. It rules your 11th house of friendships and profits, and also the 6th house of health and work. So it could be, especially because the Sun is the natural ruler of work, that there could be some problems associated with your health this month. The fact that these fiery planets are in the company of your ruling planet Mercury, and Mercury, when it does go forward after the 12th of the month, will make contact with both the Sun and Mars, being the quicker moving body out of those three. So I warn you to take care with your health, and to not, I guess, take your health for granted, and to overestimate your abilities at this particular time. You do need to pace yourself. We also see the confirmation of that by the month starting with Moon in the 6th house in debilitation. Debilitation means its weakest sign of Scorpio. Saturn still sitting there on the 7th house, so the full moon that takes place on the 3rd of the month. I know I'm jumping around, but I just want to make it interesting for you. The full moon takes place very near Saturn. Saturn for you is a mixed planet. It rules the 8th and the 9th house, so it gives that mixed results, but more beneficial results being the ruler of the 9th house. So here we see the moon finance planet moving into fullness in the 7th house with Saturn. Could show some serious undertakings with other people, or perhaps for some of you a desire to pull back. And that's probably not a bad idea, because when the moon is full, of course, all those emotions run high, and you may not exactly make the best decisions if you're being controlled by your emotions. We see some other transits there. So we do need to lead up to that new moon, which takes place in your sun sign on the 17th. So on the 3rd, that full moon in the 7th house, which is significant other people, marriage partner, your spouse, business partner, the world at large. Then it swings around on the 17th to the new moon in the 1st house, the sign of Gemini. So this is definitely a period where you're going to be thinking about how you can remodel yourself, remake yourself. It's like a time for the new you, if I could put it that way. So this is a good time to move forward. Give it a week or so before you make any drastic changes. You do need to be aware that although the planet Mercury goes forward, it takes a bit of time to pick up steam again. some of the other things there, we see Jupiter, the sextile to your sun sign. That's happening throughout the month, but for some of you it may peak around the 17th. The sun then moves to the second house, which is your finance sector. So talking about money and those sorts of things, you might start to see a bit more of an augmentation of those sort of issues around the 22nd, when the sun moves into the next sign to you, which is the sign of Cancer, which is your finance sign. The triangular position of Jupiter to Uranus from the 3rd house to the 11th, that's excellent for contracts and for negotiating with friends and just generally having a good time. Jupiter-Uranus is a little bit zany. These are friendly aspects, so they work well together, and your communication should be highlighted along with friends, and in some cases some unusual and unexpected fulfillment of a long-held desire or dream can take place. Mercury is in the square to Neptune leading up to the 24th. That's not so good. That can create some confusing issues, particularly with employers. Square aspect is to Pisces, which is your career house, so you need to be very clear in documenting everything at that time. So you can see here again, just because Mercury moves into its forward motion doesn't mean you're not going to have problems in communication. That is particularly a time when you need to be extra cautious with your communications and your correspondence. The movement of Mars into the 2nd house on the 24th is a bit of a problem. As I said, that's not a particularly friendly planet, and that can cause disputes and argumentation, and possibly even over expenditure because you're being a little bit too over confident with how much money you have. Pace yourself at that time. Venus in the 3rd house, sextile to the Sun on the 28th is great, as is the Venus sextile to Uranus on the 29th. So good favourable aspects at the end of the month, tying up between Venus and Sun, and Venus and Uranus. Again, the 11th house, which is friendships, profitability, and generally a fulfillment of one's life's desires. Did I say that right? Life's desires. That's better. Look forward to your company next month, as usual. In the meantime, get a more detailed analysis here. It's all free, astrology.com.au, and I'll see you here next month. Bye-bye.